Hello, good morning, everyone. The first people are joining. I got Greg here. I'm Nora. How are we all doing? I'm very curious to hear where everyone is joining from. So maybe can you put your where you live in the chat function? Really keen to hear where everyone is from. I don't see heaps of answers yet of where people are joining from. Maybe you're just all awfully shy. But in that case, we can just go to the next slide and I can kick things off. I will start by introducing myself and then I will hand it over to Greg. But I'm Nora and I am managing the North region for Agentforce as a partner manager. And that means that I manage our partner ecosystem, so the partners who implement our product, Fluido being one of them. And it means that I work very hard every day to make sure that the partners are successful with the Agentforce product together with our internal team at Salesforce. I'm based in Amsterdam, but I'm frequently flying all over the northern region as well. And it's a pleasure to be here today. And then I will hand over to Greg so he can introduce himself.
Yes, so I am working with Fluido. I am, as you see here, senior business advisor. I work as sort of a business architect. So one hand in the business and one hand in developing technical solutions. And today I'm working a lot with agents, Agentforce, and also Data Cloud.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Greg. And maybe also, without further ado, we will now kick things off. But please don't be shy and put your questions in the chat box, because the best and most challenging question actually has a chance to win some swag. So please don't be shy and ask all of your difficult questions, because that's what we're here for. Next slide, please. And of course, if you've been on webinars with us before, you know we do love a good forward-looking statement. And the reason why we put that in is because we really ask you to make buying decisions on products that are actually out there. And if we do touch on things around roadmap, then it is important to know that those products are not out there yet. Make your buying decisions on what's currently available. I will do a really quick intro on why we're here and why it's so important that we're having this webinar about how data is the heart of everything. And that's really because we believe at Salesforce with Agentforce that agents and humans are better together. There's so many manual work that can be done by agents, taking away a lot of burden on the humans doing the work. So we really believe in maximizing the human potential together with agents. You can scale better with agents. They obviously don't go to sleep at night, so they continue to work. So it's really tomorrow's hybrid workforce. However, to really get that to work for your organization and to have it to scale, you do need to think about the architecture. You do need to think about the roles and the responsibilities that you're giving your agents, how you're setting them up, which data they can get access to, right? Which actions they can have, how you package up your APIs, all super important. Next slide, please. Actually, maybe you can go back, Greg. Then I will go into some of the use cases. But like key message here being is, in order to get it to work and in order to get it to scale and be ready for the tomorrow that is going to come, we need to actually put some thought behind it, and we need to think about data strategy as well, because you can't have an AI strategy without a data strategy. Next slide. We do actually have some real trendsetters with us at Salesforce who've all really joined our motion with Agentforce. There's a few really cool use cases on here, but one of my favorite ones is the one from the World Economic Forum, where obviously many politicians, thought leaders would get to the World Economic Forum, have the app of the event on their phone, and continuously throughout the event, they would get recommendations from an agent, which was obviously powered by Agentforce, where they needed to go, which sessions were interesting, which thought leaders were in what room. And I just think it's such a wicked idea to really enhance an event experience. And I think it's obviously brilliant because the World Economic Forum really covers subjects that matter. So that's why it's one of my personal favorites. Next slide. But this is my last slide, and this is what I want to drive home before I hand over to Greg, who has a phenomenal story. I think you're all really lucky that you have pretty much an hour of listening to Greg. But my key message here is really that data cloud sits at the heart of everything. And that is important because that really uncovers that piece of data integration to make sure that you actually have access to the right data. And Greg is going to talk about that in a minute more on why that is important and why organizations struggle with that, because we do also understand it's not easy. But this is kind of our architecture as we love it, as we like to see it. And it's also the architecture that our implementation partners such as Fluido can really set that up for you and set you up for success. I will pause here. That was also my intro. It's an honor opening this webinar. Please don't be shy. I will put my email address in the chat box if you have any questions. I'm always happy to help. Thank you, and over to you, Greg.
Okay, so let's dive into it. Today, we'll talk about a couple of topics, why data is important. I think we covered that in a previous session. I'll just recap a little bit there. We'll go through how to get some of this data from your organization. So how do you find this hidden data that you can use? And then I'll walk through a solution. So a practical application of how you can make it all work so you can leave here with something that you can actually build upon. So let's dive in. So first, Fluido is part of a larger company called Infosys, but we are a leading partner across Europe. So we have, as you can see, all the flags down here and all the locations. We work in many different countries in Europe, and we have a lot of certifications. So we've spent a lot of time working with these solutions, and excited to share a bit more with you about what we've learned and how we put those skills to use. So this slide, you might recognize it if you attended the last webinar, and it was AI and mentioning how AI alone is not sufficient. We need AI and data together, and this is a new currency. And I'll be talking about how you can build more of that currency in your organization. So again, data challenges can cause a lot of issues along the way. Getting access to data is difficult. It can have performance impact on our solutions that we implement if we don't have the data. Of course, it needs to be trusted, and this is a huge challenge that we're facing with hallucinations and getting bad answers, or getting just the wrong answers, even if it's not hallucinating and it's using bad data. And then maintaining data is difficult. And this solution today that we'll walk through covers and helps you solve all of these challenges. And I'm excited to share that with you. So again, without data, when we build an agent, it can be difficult if it's not backed by that proper data, proper knowledge to make decisions in the background. You spend a lot more time fixing and tuning agents. So generally you can launch something out of the box, but the hard work starts as soon as you want to go from, say, 70 to 80% accurate up to that 95% range. We spend a lot of time in the refinement area. And if you don't do that well and you launch something that's not providing enough answers, then you're really ruining your chance to have a strong customer impact here. And so you don't want to launch something that's not working well. But the better you can deploy a solution, the better chances you'll have with success in your project, and also drive adoption. So how do we solve this? And what I'm going to be talking today is very much what Nora mentioned in the beginning, that it's humans and AI working together. And this is an important concept because we want to make sure that we're developing good content that's usable content for our agents. Many of you might have seen some of the articles about from Harvard Business Review lately, talking about something called work slop, which is essentially AI producing a bunch of text and data that is not necessarily relevant or good data that can be used within the organization. And what we will address today is how to avoid that exact situation. So this is kind of something that I've discovered in the last year that was quite interesting, is that there is a lot of hidden organizational data available to help solve these problems. And really that lies in all of these customer interactions we have. So anytime we're speaking to a customer through a phone call, if we're chatting in a session with internal support agents, sending emails back and forth, or creating cases, it's really that high level customer knowledge where we're getting that voice of the customer. And it's a great opportunity where we can use that data to help feed our agents and make them smarter. So again, looking at these sources, chat logs have really good information about, what the customer's problems are, their challenges, cases, of course. They come in when, a customer is generally having a problem we want to solve. So we have a lot of good information there. Phone calls, whether they're outbound for sales or inbound, calls for support. A lot of different information can be surfaced there. And of course, email messages. And what I discovered working with a customer that was focused on call logs, is that there's so much business data and business questions that you can answer from that data. And I'll show a bit of how we can do that in this solution. And ultimately, this data is coming in all the time. So you're getting fresh data every single time. It's not like just scraping your website and using that data, but it's data that's happening regularly every single day. So how do we unlock this data? Here's an example of a call. In here, if I just use this in itself, it may help us to answer some of the questions, and it may help an agent, but it's not very well structured. We have some problems with that, and it could be things like data bias. So we might get a lot more answers for a specific area that might not be relevant. There can be privacy information that's surfaced if we just use that data directly. Maybe it's got things like customer names and things like that in there, and personal information we need to be careful of. The information could be very localized. We might work differently in different regions, so the call log information could be quite different there. And then context could be there. You might get a snippet in a call from a particular message, but there's maybe a much longer conversation, or maybe a background in cases that may have happened with that customer. So you have to understand the full context. And then also we've seen, outdated information. Anybody that was working with COVID era customer care, that the data that you used during that time is maybe not the same answers that we're giving customers today. So we want to make sure that the information is relevant and, of course, of good quality. So back to how do we do this? And we need to have a human, a hybrid approach here, using both AI and agents and also humans. So in the example that I'm going to show today, we're going to walk through how we use AI to analyze this organizational data and then create knowledge. And one of the problems with knowledge is that there are a number of tools that can help create knowledge, but generally it's a quite manual process. Even if we do it at the case, after submitting a case, and an agent can go, and a human person can go and create a knowledge article directly, they don't tend to do that. They're measured on productivity, so they tend to jump to the next case quickly. So how can we automate this process and make it better? So what we do is, the AI is going to help and create this knowledge data. And later on, it's going to help us check for duplicates, and we'll show that. And then the humans are going to review that data. So a human will look at an article that's created in draft mode, see that it makes sense, perhaps fine tune it a bit, validate it, and then take in any additional knowledge that might be needed from other sources, perhaps to take that draft article and to publish it as a trusted source of knowledge that we can put out on our websites and answer questions with our customers, or help our internal teams to get better answers with that data. So now is the fun. So good that we've gotten to the solution quickly here. And this isn't meant to all be PowerPoint slides, so we will actually do some live demos. Always risky, but perhaps a bit more fun than looking at PowerPoint. So let me walk through the solution for you. So up in the left-hand corner here, you see we have a number of different sources of this data that we talked about earlier, organizational knowledge. So things like the call transcripts or messaging, chat sessions, or cases. And so we take that data and essentially we are running a prompt that is going, and it is taking that data. And then I'll show two examples of how we can do this. One simple way is just to take the 50 most recent records. And we have to be careful about the amount of data, of course, that we feed to our prompts. So we can't just take 1,000 records and pass it into a prompt here and look and mine that information. We need to simplify that. So in this case, we're pulling in 50 records. We're also pulling in existing knowledge. And within the prompt, we're saying create new knowledge that does not match the existing knowledge we already have. We're going to pass in something like a strictness level, and that's used for matching. We maybe say very strict if it's really if it's we want to make sure we don't create articles that are exactly like what we have, or it can be extremely loose where we'll just create a bunch of articles even if it matches a slight similarity. And then ultimately we create draft articles where a human goes and validates that and pushes it back into the knowledge base. So pretty simple. We can implement this rather easily. And how do we do that? We do that with flows. So not everything needs to be an agent. This is also a tool we can plug into an agent, of course, because it's running a screen flow where we're choosing some options. We're using prompts, as I just showed here in the background, to generate the knowledge. And then we are basically showing that feedback back to the user. So this is when it's run manually, but we can also run this automatically. So every night we could say, create 3 new knowledge articles for me based upon today's chat transcripts. This is an automated process here. So an auto launch flow, we could also run this as an agent action. So working as an employee agent, we could say, help me to create new knowledge articles. So many different ways to use the same tool, and it all depends on the user experience that you want to deliver. We can also make this a bit more advanced. You might say, well, maybe 30 knowledge articles isn't enough. I want to search my entire knowledge base. And in the previous example, it's just going to return general. It's going to look for general frequently asked questions. But in this case, we might want to say, I want to provide knowledge articles around billing. I've noticed we've been getting a lot of billing questions lately. How can I answer knowledge articles around billing? Well, in this solution, it's a bit more complex because we need to search for content that is more based upon semantic data. So in the previous example, it was just send me the raw data. But in this case, we want to find the relevant data. So if I'm looking for information about billing issues, I'm going to say, show me all knowledge that involves customer questions involved with billing or issues with their account, and then return the data. So we can search a much larger set of data, not just our last 50 call records, but we can search all of our call transcripts, find information that's relevant to billing, pass that back into our prompt, and then we will now have it create new knowledge articles based upon that data. So it's a bit more advanced in using Data Cloud, but also this is something we do regularly, and it's not difficult to set up either. In the end, we're providing back answers in answers to the human to review and do the same thing we were doing in the previous use case. So let's go ahead and go through this demo, and we can go. I'll go through and show sort of a real world example of this, and you can see how it works. So let's jump over to a session here. Okay, so I have this company called Spaceway Solar, and one of the things I mentioned about my previous customer that we worked with their call logs was that we realized we could ask a lot of questions about the data. They wanted to learn what new marketing strategies could they have, or what are the most often complaints about products, which products have the most often complaints. You can ask these questions here. So I'm going to say, what do customers say about installers? Say ask. And we're going to go ahead and this is basically using what I was showing in the previous slide, where it's going and searching for semantically similar information. And now we're getting some information back here. So customers frequently ask about the qualifications and certifications of installers. So, so maybe we want to create some knowledge-based articles based upon this. So I can say, I could either take that same prompt and pass it in, or I can just type something new here. So I'll say create articles based upon installer questions. And then I can choose that strictness level we were looking at before. I'll just choose balanced, and I can go ahead and say create knowledge here. And this is simply a screen flow. So it's just going to go ahead and run. And okay, always interesting. Let's go back. What do customers? Try again. If it fails, I'll use the general one. It's the demo gods always get you in these cases. Okay, I will choose the other demo here. So this is the more general one. I created a bunch of knowledge articles earlier, so that's probably it's finding similarity to the previous ones. So I can tell you why it's failing at least. But so I'm going to just run a general FAQ here and show that. And again, this is going through, it's gathering the last 50 chat transcripts here. From there, it's going and taking that information and suggesting new knowledge articles. And in this case, you can see I have 2 new knowledge articles that have been created here. So what happens to my solar panel system when I sell my house, and is lightning damage covered under my solar system warranty? So this came from call transcripts, and we have created some new knowledge articles here. And now you can see this is what it would look like here this is the draft of articles that have been created using this tool so far. So pretty much everything here has been set up. And I'm going to go through an example of another article to show sort of the next step here. So if I'm going to go through and review this, I might have a question here about how do I schedule pre-winter maintenance. Before I go and approve this, it's sitting in draft mode here. I want to make sure that I don't have something similar to this. So this is more about scheduling than it is preparing my system here. So I think I will create a new knowledge article here. And essentially I can go ahead and publish this. And now this article is available to my agent, and I can answer this question on my website. So I've now made my agent much smarter, as well as my internal helping my internal teams with knowledge. So getting back to here. So this again is a continuous feedback cycle. This is happening sort of every day. We can go and we can run this to capture anything that might be missing. You know, if we're reviewing our chat logs that we're seeing with our agents and we find questions that are missing, we can go ahead and run the process I was just showing, where we might want to go through and build content based upon a specific question and have it help answer that. And so we're always working on refinement. We start out, as I said, at 75, 80%, maybe higher, depending on how good your data is. And then we refine that and we constantly iterate to make our agents smarter by using our data. And we just continue to repeat this process. So as we have 30 minutes here, we want to leave some time for questions. So thinking about this from a Q&A perspective, you know, thinking about, do you have some sources that could be interesting here to use? Maybe you go back and look at your data and understand, are there things you can use? Case data, again, is really good, but you want to make sure you have good resolutions in your cases to do this. So a lot of customers aren't using a resolution field in cases. I recommend starting that now. You can see the question and what was done to solve that case. And that can now be used for this type of solution. So think about how you handle your knowledge, how you can improve your knowledge base, how you can keep it up to date, and then start a plan. And hopefully that plan involves reaching out to us as partners where we can help. We'd be happy to help get the solution in place for you. And it's something we can do rather quickly, so you can get the benefit of this in just a few weeks. So from there, I will open it up to questions. And maybe, Nora, you can let me know if you see what the questions are and share them, and then I can help to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, don't be shy. We all must go to win that swag, so go in for it. Go for it. So I got a question from Google, and he's asking, can Salesforce agents be built using unstructured data from sources outside of Salesforce, like chats from our customer support system?
Yes, so we can use unstructured data and from external sources or structured data from external sources. And this is where Data Cloud is really important in this process, because we ingest the data into Data Cloud. And we can then use that data to answer the questions. So much like I was showing the semantic search earlier, we can combine that source into our prompt and semantically search that data, just like we would with the standard Salesforce data that exists in the CRM. And we can use that to answer these types of questions. One important thing to note is, from a Data Cloud perspective, when I was showing the semantic search, is that it is now free or at no cost to ingest standard Salesforce data. So data from the CRM, when you ingest it, it comes in free of charge now. You pay storage costs, but that's quite low, and read costs, which are quite low. So you can get access to your Salesforce data and have this semantic search capability rather easily. And then you can also take information like external data sources and map it to the same data model object for that semantic search retrieval. So we can use multiple sources.
Wonderful and great question. Thank you, Google. Any more questions? Any more takers? Oh yeah, I've just got two coming in. Thank you. Quicker than lightning. Yuha is asking, have you built similar approach for maintaining knowledge articles, finding duplicated articles, not used articles, bad articles, or old articles?
Yes, that is exactly where this can go. That's a great question, because this gets you thinking. So this is an example of one use case, but we can do similar things with this. So how do you make sure your knowledge base is clean and up to date? So that is a process where, for instance, you could do things like create for each one of my current knowledge articles, go through and search and see if this if it is relevant today. Is it similar to what customers are answering? You could score your knowledge based upon that data to see which knowledge is out of date and needs to be cleaned up. So there's a lot of different things we could do with this. I think the benefit of looking at this and walking through a solution is that it gets you thinking of different ideas. So we haven't built those specific things, but those I've thought about, yeah, how can we improve existing knowledge using similar tools?
Yeah. And then I think the last question, Greg, because we were supposed to stop at half. So the last question, I think, is kind of a deny or confirm question from Alan, how I read it. And he's asking, when you search knowledge articles, I guess you are using a search and index in Data Cloud. But is the search index vector or hybrid, and which should be chosen?
Yes. Okay. So it is using the search index. In the case when I was searching for installers earlier, it's using a search index, and uh, it's the choice of hybrid versus keyword. It depends on the types of searches that we're doing. So in this case, where it's looking through large chunk, a large amount, large chunks of data, and maybe the keywords aren't so necessarily as relevant. We could just use a standard semantic search, but we generally I'll try different approaches and build different search indexes to see what works best for each solution. So it's a bit of playing around to see what solves that. So yes, you can use hybrid search or just a standard semantic search. But I think it depends on the relevance of your query to the data you're trying to match. And so there's different approaches there. I think I built this one with hybrid, considering that it might be when users are trying to build things around questions like billing or credit checks, then I think the hybrid approach in that case might be better.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for all of those questions. Greg, thank you so much for answering them so well. Again, if there are any more questions on how Salesforce can help you, how Fluido can help you, then please don't be shy. Get in touch with Greg or myself. It was an absolute honor and pleasure hosting this and doing it together with our really well-respected partner, Fluido. So thank you, Greg, for what you do and for partnering with us. And thank you to our audience for being here. Thank you, Ioana, our marketing manager. Is behind the screen, but she does a lot for us making all these webinars happen. So thank you, Ioana. And I want to wish all of you a really lovely rest of your day. Greg, anything left from you?
Nope. One thing I do want to point out before I forget, thank you for reminding me, we have a QR code here. If you'd like the presentation, please scan this QR code and we can send you the presentation. So give you sort of the roadmap for bringing this forward. So thank you for reminding me, Nora.
Thanks, Greg. So now all go scanning. We will leave the screen open for everyone to catch the QR code, and then we will close off this webinar.
Thanks and have a great Thursday.